I'm Demetrius Thomas, career coach for Mobile County Public Schools.
And I'm Savannah Gilman, also career coach with Mobile County Public Schools. Today we're going to talk to you about essential skills. What are essential skills? So essential skills are a set of skills and behaviors that are necessary for every job. Sometimes we call them soft skills, work readiness skills, foundational, or employability skills. These are the skills that people need for learning, work, and life. They're used in the community and the workplace. Basically, they're going to help you get the job that you want.
Okay. Essential skills are career building blocks. They also provide the foundation for learning technical skills as well as work safety. They can be your personal qualities, values, and they will definitely give you a jump start on your future. Top 10 skills and values that employers want. One of those skills is honesty and integrity. Does everyone know what integrity means? Well, integrity means that, hey, I don't have to worry about you doing your job if someone's not watching. So whether the manager's watching or the teacher's watching, you're going to do and be on task. That's integrity. Communication skills. Communication skills can be verbal, non-verbal. You want to pay attention to the way that you communicate with your employers as well as with your coworkers. You want to make sure that it's legible, whatever you're communicating in writing. You also want to pay attention to your non-verbal cues that you present. That's like frowning your face, folding your arms, or sighing. You want to make sure that you pay attention to those communication skills as well.
So teamwork skills. Teamwork skills basically means how do you get along well with others? How do you work together? Do you say that's not my job, that's not my task, or do you try to help your fellow coworker? Leadership. Do you consider yourself someone that your fellow employees look up to? Do you take initiative on things? Are you someone that your boss wants to go to give an extra job or a task? Leadership is really important in the workplace.
Okay. The next skills that you should have are motivational skills. Those are the skills that you can only find them within yourself. That's not something that we can teach. Hey, are you someone that has drive? You're someone that takes the initiative. You know what reason you're getting up. We all come to work to, motivation is paycheck, right? Analytical skills is another skill that we need to make sure that we have, that you're able to see a problem and come up with a solution for it. This is very important in any workplace.
Right. Time management is also really big. Are you able to manage your time wisely at work? Do you have several tasks that you're working on at the same time, but you know, I have to meet a deadline on this one, so that's the one that should take precedent, that should get all of your time first. A strong work ethic. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but a strong work ethic means, do you show up to work on time? When you're there, do you work hard? Are you present? Or are you sitting on your phone in the bathroom when you shouldn't be? So be somebody that your bosses can look to have a strong work ethic.
Okay. Another one is interpersonal skills. That means that you're able to get along with your coworkers. You're able to provide a pleasant environment. You're not someone that's grumpy all the time. Interpersonal skill is another skill that's not something that we can teach you. That's something that you just have to find within yourself. You want to make sure that you're flexible and adaptable. That means that, hey, if the boss asks you to stay late today, can you do it? That's just like the environment we're in right now. We're used to being in front of students, but we're in front of a camera this year, so we had to be flexible and learn how to adapt to make sure that you guys have the skills necessary for you in this type of environment.
Okay, next up we have some videos to show you on each of those essential skills.
Do you have any goals? How do you set your goals? How high are the goals you're setting? Goals are the driving force to your future. They should be specific, measurable, and realistic. Define your goals in a way that will make you more accountable. Write them down. Share your plans with others. This will help you to be more committed to achieving them. Think about your future. How can goals help you get there? There are many hurdles to cross to get any career. Most require training ranging from an apprenticeship to a college degree. If your goal is to obtain one of these positions, you need to consider your current behavior. You need to set goals now that will help you to gain admission to the necessary apprenticeship or college program. You never want a lack of effort to come back to haunt you and stop you from getting into a program or job. The truth is, You may be doing something completely different than what you're currently considering. So it's always best to work your hardest at everything right now. The bottom line is, the goals you set today will drastically affect your future.
Can you handle change? Have you ever said, "That's not my job"? Do you want to be a leader? Your attitude definitely affects the workplace environment and your potential future. Having an optimistic outlook will help you to be more effective and open doors for you. You should always show your boss that you have a willingness to take on new tasks without complaining. When your boss says, "Do this," your response should always be, "Sure." Don't forget, you are getting paid for a reason. Companies want to hire people who are able and willing to learn new things and able to quickly adjust when job circumstances change. The best employees and leaders are very flexible. Change is a good thing. It's a part of life, and you must be ready for it, especially in the workplace. The bottom line is, you need to be ready for change and approach it with an optimistic attitude.
Do you interact with your coworkers the way you interact with your friends? Does your writing look like this? Do you send jokes to your boss and coworkers? All workplace communication should be accurate and appropriate. Make sure that you use proper spelling and grammar. Always spell check and proofread written communications before sending it. Never use shorthand or emojis while communicating with coworkers. And make sure all your responses are accurate. Avoid sending jokes because you never know who they might be offensive to. Also, make sure you respond to texts, emails, and phone calls from your boss and coworkers in a timely manner. The bottom line is, always communicate appropriately in the workplace. Do not send any emails or texts that you wouldn't want your boss or your mom to read.
Are you polite? Can people understand you when you speak? Do you roll your eyes, cross your arms, or frown when communicating with others? How you communicate with others will have an important impact on your career. You should always smile and make great eye contact when interacting with coworkers. Would you rather work with a person who looks like this or this? Always speak clearly with confidence and enthusiasm. Greet people with a firm handshake. Be mindful of your behavior and your body language at all times. It is extremely rude to look at your phone while speaking with others. Don't ever pull out your phone while speaking with your boss or while in a meeting. Bottom line, your workplace communication should be cordial and respectful at all times.
Are you actually working while at work? Do you work when the boss is not watching? Are you taking things from work? It's very important to always do what's right, whether that means being honest or just making sure that you are doing your job. If you are texting or posting on social media while at work, that's not working. That's actually stealing time from your company. If you are hiding from your boss to get out of work, that's not right. If you are calling in sick when you aren't actually sick, that's unacceptable. If you are stealing things from work for yourself or friends, like extra supplies or food or anything, that is unethical. It's actually criminal. The bottom line is, you are hired to do a job, so do what you are hired to do, period.
Are you a self-starter? Do you take pride in your work? Do you value your company's success? What's your why? Meaning, why have you chosen your current academic and career pathway? Are you just going through the motion? If so, it's not enough. You should be goal-oriented. You should take pride in your work. You should always put 100% of your effort into everything you do. Companies value employees who are self-starters, so work hard, volunteer for new things, and be loyal to your company's goals and missions. The bottom line is, the harder you work, the more successful your company will have, and the more valuable you will be to your company. Even if you leave, you'll leave with very high recommendations and a much better resume.
Do you work well with others? Do you pull your own weight at work? Can you take constructive criticism? It doesn't matter what career you choose, you will definitely be a part of a team. You must get along with others, even the people you dislike. You don't have to be friends with the people in order to work well together. You should always be respectful to your coworkers. Being a part of a team involves accepting feedback about your own performance even when it's not good. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. The bottom line is, there's no I in team, and no matter what career you choose, you will be working with others. You should be respectful and ready to pull your own weight. There will be slackers at your job. You don't have to be one of them.
Are you often late to work? Do you text or browse social media while at work? Does it take you an hour to do a 10-minute job? If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. Always strive to arrive to work a little early. Consider filling your gas tank, preparing your lunch, and laying out your clothes the night before to help you to do this. It's extremely important to manage your time wisely. While at work, your cell phone should be turned off and put away. Phones should only be used during breaks, lunch, or for emergencies. Otherwise, they distract you from your work and make you look bad to your boss. Prioritizing at work should be your #1 goal. Set goals each day for what you need to accomplish and make to-do lists to help you to reach these goals. The bottom line is, it is your responsibility and completely up to you to manage your time wisely. You are getting paid to do a job, not to waste your employer's time.
Okay, there are some steps that we need to take before we actually even get to an interview. We need to pick out something to wear. What do you think is appropriate to wear to an interview? As well as you need to do your homework on the employer. So you're going to become familiar with the responsibilities that for the job that you're applying for, and you're also going to use the job posting to help you with the interview. And when we say do your homework, we want you to go to that company's website and we want you to look at the mission statement, look at the goals that this company has, and then you definitely want to make sure that you look at the job posting to make sure that you qualify, because in the interview you're going to have a question to ask that company about something that you either saw in the mission statement or something that you found that was interesting on their website. Maybe they have a new project coming out, but you want to let the employer know that, hey, I've researched this job and I've done my homework and I'm ready to start working here.
Okay, the next thing you want to do is make sure that you review your resume and any past work experiences. This is where it's important to have integrity and make sure that your resume is accurate and up to date. If you put something on your resume that isn't truthful, or doesn't really represent you, and then you're asked questions on it, you may get stumped and flustered, and they'll more than likely always find out. So make sure that you know what your past work experiences are, make sure that everything is accurate, and be able to talk about it and sell yourself. Also, be prepared to discuss any of those past accomplishments with specific examples that can relate to the job that you're interviewing for. So that's where you look at that job posting and think about any type of accomplishment or job that you've had prior that would be relevant to the job that you're interviewing for. So think about all of those things, kind of review them in your mind, and have things prepared going into it. You don't have to rehearse per se, but have things at the top of your mind so that you don't get flustered.
Okay. Steps before the interview continue. You want to show what makes you unique and what makes you stand out from others, because that's what's going to help to sell you. In previous videos, we've talked about you having a resume and the resume being the portrait of yourself. So now that you're in front of the person that's interviewing you, you have to do something that's going to set you apart from other people that they may have interviewed that day or be interviewing for that day. So this is where you're going to tell all those good qualities that you have about yourself in the interview. You want to make sure that you always capture those positive traits that you have and what you can contribute to the team. And most importantly, you want to practice, 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 because the more you practice, the more comfortable you're going to become in an interview setting.
Right, so the next section is on dress for success. So that homework portion, we asked you to pick out what you're going to wear. Think about what options you have in your closet that are going to make you feel like you can put your best foot forward. Because dressing professionally, that is your first impression. So make sure that you keep in mind to have a solid conservative suit and tie if you have one, a coordinating blouse. You don't want anything too loud and any patterns that are too bright. You want to keep things pretty neutral. No sagging pants. Make sure you limit your jewelry. You don't need any big hanging earrings, something that isn't going to take attention away from your skills. Make sure you're well groomed. If you have piercings or body art, try to keep them covered. If you have them on your arms, make sure you wear sleeves. And easy on the perfume or cologne. You don't want somebody who has a headache problem, or if you come into the room and you're too loud, that may be all that they can focus on if the smell is too strong.
Something that we were always been told, that you want to make sure that you look better than the person that's interviewing you, so that's a way that you can kind of judge yourself. So I would rather you be overdressed than underdressed. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to those things, all the things that Ms. Gilman went over for us. We're going to see a couple pictures on that. If you look at the pictures on the screen, you see a guy that's kind of casually dressed, and that's okay. You see the next young lady, she has on a blazer, and she has on slacks and low cut shoes as well. You see the next guy, he has on a tie, he has on a suit jacket. He's well put together. If you look at the next female, she also has on a blazer, she has on slacks, she has on flat shoes. And our last young lady, she has on just slacks and a blouse. So any of these would be an appropriate attire for you to conduct an interview in. This is what business formal looks like. We have a male version of business formal. If you pay attention to the details that he has on a blazer. He also has on a tie. As we can see, he has on a belt. He also has his pants pulled up. He has on socks. I know it's a thing now for guys not to wear socks with loafers, but he does have on socks, so socks would be appropriate for an interview. And you see his shoes match as well. For the young lady, you see she didn't have on any large jewelry. She didn't have on any big earrings. She has on a blouse, a button-up blouse, so she's covered. Her neck portion is covered as well. She also has on a blazer. She has on slacks, as well as she has on shoes that are the appropriate height for you. You keep hearing me saying appropriate. If you have on heels and you can't walk in them, then I wouldn't wear those, because that's something that could be distracting and it could also throw you off.
I like to say, if you'd wear it out on Saturday night, you probably wouldn't want to wear it to an interview.
Exactly. Next we have business casual, and that just goes over if the place is more business casual. You see, you can be just a little bit more lax, but they're still covered, they still have belts on, their pants are not sagging, they're just appropriately dressed for the workplace.
One thing to keep in mind, that both females had on neutral colors, and they also had closed-toe shoes.
Okay, and this is some interview attire that we like to, because females have more options than men, so we wanted you to have a look at some different dresses, some different skirts, where you can see what you feel comfortable in. But as you can see, none of these are too revealing. You see they're appropriately dressed.
And appropriate lengths.
Yes, absolutely. You have to think about that as well when we talk about females with their skirts. You want to make sure that your skirt is the appropriate length. It's not too tight, as well as with dresses. If you have skin showing, you want to make sure that you have on, if you have a shirt that has no sleeves, you want to make sure that you have on a jacket or sweater that will cover that. Okay? All right.
So the next portion we're going to go over is the interview process. There's 3 phases of an interview. Establishing rapport, and rapport is that comfortable conversation that you have with someone, because that's what you want an interview to be. You want it to be a comfortable conversation. You may be nervous, you may have those nerves, and you're obviously trying to impress that person, but they always feel better if they're just sitting across from somebody and talking about what your skills are. The next part is discussing the job. So what will you actually be doing on the job? And what skills are you bringing to the job? And then that last portion is wrapping up, which is where you're given any bit of last information of why you think that you should have that job, why you think you're the best person, and then obviously thank them for the interview and tell them that you'd love to hear from them.
Okay, this diagram right here gives us some of the common mistakes that people make during an interview. And the number one common mistake is they don't make eye contact. So you want to make sure that when you're in the interview that you're giving eye contact. You don't want to stare at someone, but you want to just make sure that you're making those eye contacts, because that's going to show respect. That's going to show that you're confident. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that as well. You want to make sure you pay attention to your smile as well, because when we smile, we look better, as well as that resonates to the person that you're talking to. That kind of lets a little bit of your personality in as well. You want to make sure that you pay attention to any kind of fidgeting that you may do. I'm someone that normally talks with my hand, and I have to pay attention in interviews to where my hand is positioned. I have to make sure that I'm paying attention to my body language in the chair. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to those things, because they could be distracting in an interview, and you want to make sure that you don't do anything that's going to be distracting in the interview. So we're going to make eye contact, we're going to shake the person's hand, we're also going to make sure that we have our cell phones off. We want to make sure that there's nothing in that interview that's going to be distracting that employer from getting to know you and learning the best qualities about yourself.
So you pointed out one good thing that we forgot to do, that you do the first part of an interview that we always make our students practice in the classroom, if you've been through this portion, is that before you sit down, the first thing you do is you look them in the eye, like Ms. Thomas said, and you shake their hand. You want to give them a good firm handshake. You want to make sure you're looking in the eye, it's not too long. You don't want to give them a limp noodle handshake. That's the first part where they see that you're confident, you're there, you're engaged. And you should be confident in your skills and what you're about to say. So those nonverbals are very, very important.
Absolutely. And preparing for the interview, there's 3 areas that you want to make sure that you're ready to talk about. In the interview, they're going to start talking to you about, of course, they're going to say, tell me about yourself. And then that's when you'll give them a little bit of information about yourself. And you want to make sure you stay away from, well, I'm 15, I have a mom, I have a dad, a brother. Those are not the type of things that they want to know. They want to know, hey, what are you involved in school? What kind of community things you do? You could tell them your grade level. Hey, I'm a senior at Baker High School. I'm currently on the track team. I work at Chick-fil-A part-time. Those type of things are what an employer is looking for when the question comes, tell me about yourself. So in that part, that will be your tell you about yourself. And then the employer may ask you about something that you've done in the past. That's where they may have asked you, what did you do on the debate team? Or tell me about a time when you had to be a team player. So you want to have those things in the forefront of your mind. That's when you're practicing. So when you're asked in an interview, say, okay, I got that. You don't have to be like, well, let me think about it. And then the present, what are you currently doing now? What activities are you involved in? How do others see you? They may ask you a question of, if I was to ask your teacher, tell me something about Miss Gilman. And the teacher would say, well, Miss Gilman comes to class all the time. She would say that I'm a team player. I'm always ready to work. Those are the kind of things that may be a question they're asking you about the present. They may ask you about the future. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years? What's your 5-year plan? What are you going to do after high school? That's where they're looking to see what kind of goals you have. Are you motivated? Remember when we talked about those skills that employers are looking for? That's in these 3 areas. That's where they're going to find if you have those skills. Are you a team player? Are you motivated? Do you have integrity? Are you honest? So you want to make sure that you pay attention to these parts of the interview, because this is basically your interview in a nutshell. This is where they're going to grab these questions from. So you need to make sure that, hey, I always tell students, hey, you've been with yourself 16 years, you know yourself better than anyone sitting across the desk. And this is where you want to give that information. Hey, these are some highlights about me. This makes me unique and different from the person that you're going to interview later or that you've already interviewed.
Right. When you think about those 3 things, the past, present, future, that's where that homework comes into play. And you need to practice what's on your resume, how to sell yourself, and then we have some standard interview questions here that we'd like you to take down and think about. These are questions that almost in every interview you would be asked some form of this. The first one we talked about is to tell us about your background and qualifications. You might hear it like, tell me about yourself. So that one, you don't want to be drown on too long. We call it our elevator speech, but you want to have something kind of prepared to where if you had 1 or 2 minutes to talk to somebody who could give you your dream job, what would you want them to know about you? That's where Ms. Thomas was saying, don't spill your guts about your favorite color and how many brothers and sisters you have or anything like that. What's great about you? What makes you stand out? What are you involved in school? What accomplishments have you had? What are your future goals? What do you plan on doing when you get out of high school? Those are the things that an employer wants to hear about you, because they tell if you're motivated. All those essential skills we talked about, you can kind of fill in there. Are you a team player? If you're involved in any clubs or things like that. Are you able to manage your time? If you're in AP classes and you're also on the debate team or play volleyball, that means that you manage your time pretty well, right? So be able to share yourself, highlight yourself. Remember, this is you selling all of the best parts of you.
Okay. Why do you feel you're the best candidate? That's where you would say those things, hey, because I'm a go-getter. I feel like I'm the best candidate for this job because I have experience doing this or experience doing that. So you always this is where I call it humbly brag on yourself. So tell me all those good things that's gonna make you a good candidate. Some other questions that you may be asked, tell me about your strengths or your weaknesses, or they may say your areas of developmental. Well, one of my strengths is I am a good listener, okay? That's a pretty good strength, right? But what if I said, hey, I don't manage my time right? That will be something I need to develop. But how can I turn that around and spin it? Well, I'm not so good at time management, but I'm working on that. I've set alarms on my phone. I've also come up with calendars. I have a paper calendar as well as I have an electronic calendar. I'm prioritizing things. So when a person asks you about areas that you need to improve or a weakness, you always want to take that and spin it and turn it into something that's good, because nobody wants to know any negative things about us. And some students are like, well, I don't have any. There's something out there that you can say, hey, what me and Miss Gilman sometimes say in class, hey, I'm a perfectionist. So I have to learn to relinquish some of my duties to someone else. I try not to take it all on. That's, it's like, well, that's not really a weakness, but it can be a weakness. Mm-hmm. But you always want to take whatever that small weakness or area you need to develop, and you want to turn it into a positive or something that you are improving upon.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to reveal your deepest, darkest flaw on the weakness question. You want to make sure, like Ms. Thomas said, that it's something you can turn into a positive. Or we call this a trick question, because my typical answer is, I care too much, or I wear my feelings on my sleeve. Is that the worst thing in the world for an employer? No, it's not. But it can be perceived as a weakness. This is where, when the strength part, don't say, I've had so many students who are like, well, I'm kind of good at this, or I'm kind of good at that. That's where you want to really, really be confident about your strengths. Know what you're good at and brag about it.
Some things we've had what students say, I pop off. I'm like, no, don't say you pop off, or you get angry, mad, or any of those type of things. Those are no-nos. We want you to stay away from those things. Some other things that you might want to make sure that you know, what are your career goals? What are some things that, hey, in the next 5 years, what do you plan on doing? You always want to know, why do you want this job? Of course, we all know to make money. But why do you want this particular job to make money? So you need to make sure that you've study that answer as well, because 9 times out of 10 you'll be asked that one as well. And a biggie for us that goes back to your homework, what question do you have for us? And a lot of kids say, I don't have any questions. And we're like, no, that's not an answer.
That ends the interview. You want to keep it going.
You want to keep it going. One of your questions could be, well, how are you helping, how do you give back? How does this company give back to the community? Do you have room for growth in this company? What's the next big project that this company is doing? I saw that with Oster, you can say something about the new government contract that they have. But you will only know these things if you've done your homework and you've researched this company. We want to steer away from questions, well, how much am I going to make? If you did your homework, it kind of pretty much has a salary range in the job opening. As well as you want to stay away from Is they going to give me Blue Cross or Blue Shield? If you've done your homework, you know those questions. You want to make sure you're asking a question about the company. And to be honest, you may not even want to know the answer to that question, but you want to make sure you have a question, because that lets the interviewer know that, hey, this kid has, or this person has went to our website, they've done their homework, they've took that extra step to know what the company has to offer, they know what our goals are, they know what our mission statement. A great place to pull out questions is from the mission statement. Find out what the mission statement of that company is. We have these companies in our community. How do they give back to the community? They take money from the community, but what kind of things do they support? The Heart Association, the March of Dimes, any of those organizations. But again, the only way you'll know those questions if you've done your research on the company.
If all else fails, I always say, if your mind goes blank, ask, when will I hear back? When will I hear back? Or just remind them, I really want this job. One question that I use as well is, what are you looking for? And then that gives a chance to open up conversation more, because they may say, we're looking for this type of person that has teamwork skills and can multitask, and then you can say, oh, well, I have all of those things. So it kind of just, you don't want to end the conversation and say, nope, no questions. So.
You want to show that you're confident, and if, like she said, if all else fails, hey, when do I start? That kind of shows that you're confident. Hey, I think I knocked this interview out of the park. I'm the person for the job. When will I hear back from you? So those are just some standard. You could be asked any of these questions. You could be asked all of these questions, or there could be other questions that you can be asked as well that are not on this list. You can Google standard interview questions on any search engine, and you'll come up with this list and more. So you just want to make sure that you are prepared for the interview. Okay?
Some interviewing tips. Relax. Like I've said, I know you may be nervous, but before you go in, just take some deep breaths, shake it out, and understand that the person interviewing you has been in your position at some point. Be energetic and upbeat. Show that you're interested in the job. That goes with your body language too. If you're sitting up straight, you're engaged in the conversation. You don't sound like you just rolled out of bed and threw something on and came into the interview.
Okay. You want to make sure that you listen to the answers and make to specific questions. If it's something that you don't quite understand, or if you can ask for that question to be repeated. It's okay to have silence, a moment of pause, and give yourself time to think about the question. One thing that we tell students is that once you're listening, repeat the question back, because that gives you a few minutes to gather your thoughts. So you always want to make sure that if it's something that you don't understand, that you say, hey, can you explain that to me? Can you repeat that question if necessary? But the only way we're able to do that is that we're actively listening to the person that's interviewing us. You want to make sure that you speak clearly, and you want to make sure that you speak confidently as well, because that's the way the interviewer can say, hey, if you're mumbling, then that kind of, well, she's maybe kind of shy or something like that. But you want to make sure that you're not speaking so loud that the people in the next room, but you want to speak up to where the person that's interviewing you can hear you clearly, and you want to make sure that what you're saying is believable and that you're confident in what you're saying, and make sure that resonates to the person that's interviewing you.
So that's good, important points. Also, be sensitive to your nonverbal communications. We know we've said this several times, but I just feel like it's necessary because we see it so much in our mock interviews. If you're leaned back in your chair or you're hunched over, that comes across as that you're not caring, or you're not engaged. So you want to make sure you don't necessarily have your legs spread out, but that you have a positive, open, no arms crossed, because all of those things can give the wrong impression. It may sound very, very small, but those are all very big things that people can make judgments on just on your body language. Clearly demonstrate what you can contribute. So this is where we've talked about having your homework ready on your resume, and also being able to talk about what's on your resume and your experiences.
Okay. You want to admit if there's something that you don't have experience in, or if there's something you don't know. It's okay. You never want to say, if they ask you if you can do this skill and you know that you can't do that skill, you don't want to lie. You want to say, hey, I haven't mastered that skill, but I'm teachable, I'm trainable, I'm coachable. Those are the type of things that you want the employer to know. Hey, I haven't learned that, but I'm willing to learn. I'm able to learn that. If they ask you if you have that type of experience, give them an example of how you've had that and how that opportunity played out for you as well. You want to ask about the next steps. You want to, if they don't say at the end of the interview, they just say, hey, we'll have a good day. You want to say, hey, what's the next step after this interview? Will I receive an email? Will I receive a phone call? How will I be notified whether I'm a contender for this job, or if you've passed on me? And you always want to close the interview out by thanking the committee and letting them know, hey, I want this job. You can do that by shaking their hand and say, I look forward to hearing from you, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so. Another way that you can do that is to, once you leave the interview, you can just send them a nice email. You know, we don't do that enough. Send them a handwritten note. Call in a couple of days. You want to make sure to let the interviewer know that, hey, I'm somebody that wants this job, I'm interested in this job, and you want to make sure that you thank everyone that's in the room. Sometimes your interviews may not just be one person. You may have a panel of people that are interviewing. You want to make sure that you thank each other persons that's interviewing you, and hey, look forward to hearing from you. That will be a statement after you say, thank you, I appreciate your time, because they did take time out of their day to interview. So you want to thank them for their time, thank them for interviewing you, and hey, let them know, hey, I want this job. When I look forward to hearing from you.
So wrapping up, like Ms. Thomas said, establish that eye contact again, express your appreciation, and give a firm handshake to each person in the interview process. Just how when you came in, you shook that person's hand. If there's more than one person at the table, make sure you go around to each person and shake their hand. Ask any questions that you have about the job or the organization. So if you have any of those last questions, that's where to do it. Restate your qualifications and let the committee know that you want the job.
Absolutely. You want to make sure that you steer away from these things. You want to make sure that you don't falsify any documentation. We talked about make sure that you don't lie on any of your things in your interview, any skill set that you may have. If you don't have your CPR certification, don't put it on there. If you did not pass your CNA certification test, don't put it on there, because these have a way to come back and haunt you. If you say that you can do something in an interview and they say, okay, well, we're going to hire you based upon that, and then when it's time for you to perform, you're like, oops, I can't do that. You want to make sure that you are paying attention to whatever pre-employment testing they have. Most jobs nowadays, they do the drug testing. So you want to make sure that you're able to pass a drug test. You want to make sure that you're able to pass criminal background history. Some jobs want to see, do you have any kind of felonies, or if you have any kind of criminal history, because that kind of says a lot about your character as well. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to those things. Even your driving record, you know, if you have 20 tickets, speeding tickets, hey, that company can't put you on their insurance. So you want to make sure that you're thinking about these things now, like, well, what that has to do with me a job? But jobs in the real world, they do these things. They do credit checks. If you want to go work for a financial institution, you're going to be working with people's money. They want to know you're able to handle your own money before they entrust you to handle their customers' money. And you also want to make sure that you have knowledge and skills testing. You want to make sure that you are telling the truth about these things, because they do have a way of finding out, and they can come back and haunt you.
So the next thing we're going to talk a little bit about is social media. Every student we encounter, and everyone in general, teachers, adults, your mom, they have some type of social media. So jobs and companies are really, really looking into that now when you're out there interviewing and applying for jobs. So questionable material is a big deal. That's a no-no. You want to make sure that you have your privacy settings set up and that you don't share things that you wouldn't want a future employer to see. It's a small world. You never know who knows or who is a friend of a friend on one of your social media accounts and can see something that you shared that might be offensive to somebody, and that might cost you a job.
Employers are now hiring teams of people just to monitor social media. So whether it's Snapchat, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, any of those social media outlets, you want to make sure, and what we normally tell students is just to, if it's not something that you would share with your grandma, don't share it online. Right. Because we have had instances where companies have told us, hey, this person didn't get this job because of what we found on social media. And if you think about it, you're like, wait, that's my page. I pay my cell phone bill. But once you become a representative of that employer, then you represent them on social media as well. Just like me and Ms. Gilman are career coaches for Mobile County Public School System, we are representatives of the school system. So we have to watch the way that we behave in public and the things that we share as well on our social media. And don't think just because I take it down that it went away, because once it's out there in cyber world, it's out there. So we just want you to make sure that you just think about those things. If you want to work for the government can go back 10 years. So 10 years, if you're 26, that will be when you're 16. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention, that you're not sharing any inappropriate videos, any inappropriate pictures, and that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure, and it's important that you make sure that whatever you are sharing on social media, that it is appropriate and that it's not something that's going to come back and bite you.
Right. So some commonly made mistakes on social media that we talked about. Sharing something can make you just as guilty as if you wrote it yourself. So it doesn't matter if you share something and I didn't put that, that's not me. You co-signed it basically. So, and remember, like Ms. Thomas said, you represent your employer. It's too late to backtrack once the damage is done. You can't delete it. Even if you delete it, it's out there floating around. And definitely don't talk smack about your employer online. That's a big no-no. What do you think that would look like if your boss saw that you were miserable at your job? Avoid any political rant. Politics can be very offensive to somebody who doesn't have the same type of views as you. So you would hate for that to be a reason that you miss out on a job. Spelling and grammar errors, alcohol consumption, or showing pictures of or talking about drug use can all be big no-nos. So that concludes our presentation.
Any questions? You are feel free to email us or send us a phone call. We'll be glad. Again, I'm Demetrius Thomas, and I'm the career coach for Baker, Alma Bryant, Centennial, and Theodore.
And I'm Savannah Gilman. Again, I am with Murphy High School, Williamson, BC Rain, and Davison High School. So feel free to reach out to us. You've got our contact information. We're available by phone or email, and we'd love to even see you on Zoom if you need some one-on-one attention. We look forward to seeing you in the classroom one day.